speaking from experience because my little great grandson went there and the marked improvement that he had while he was going there, then the money got used up and then he sort of fell back down a little bit. So I'm just wondering if anybody has considered also funding that area for the littler people who, you know, are having a little bit of difficulty as well. Thank you.
I do know that we have Dream Catcher funds reading, tutoring at
Mhm.
Polytech in the evenings. So I don't know if that's the same program or not. But we
This
do have
was,
something going on.
I can't remember what her name was. She was a teacher. Do you know Amos?
Mhm.
Audrey would know.
Yeah, well, let me know.
Pardon?
Let me know when you
I will,
find
yeah.
out, yeah.
Because she was the one that started that and it went really
Mhm.
well
Mhm,
and the kids really enjoyed it.
mhm.
Betty Ann Golan. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I don't see any. So let's do, therefore, be it resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River elected council accept this as information, the SEED committee report of 2023 activities and 2024 plans. Is there a mover? Moved by Amos, seconder. Second by Greg, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Seen none, carried.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Noah.
So let's go to number 5. Adoption of the general council minutes for June 18th. If there's no questions or comments, is there a mover? Moved by Leslie. Second by Carrie. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Seen none, carried. Number 6. Recommendation from Six Nations Fire and Emergency Services. Chief Mike Seth, Fire Chief. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
So just bringing this back to council for approval, we've got a long history of working with the county of Brant and the city of Brantford on our mutual aid program that's developed and applicable throughout the entire province. The reason this is coming back is that the province has updated their format under their Fire Prevention and Protection Act. So it's now allowing non-municipal partners, which we fall into, to now be mutual aid coordinators. In the past, that wasn't a possibility. So as a part of the approval, we're looking for is an updated participation in the mutual aid program, and that I be delegated the authority to maintain or to sign and I'll maintain annual reports back to council.
Okay. Hazel, can you hit your mic? Thank you.
Is there any questions? Go ahead, Amos.
Just trying to get an understanding, is that allow you to fight fires with the other companies and then they come and help us over here? Is that what, just trying to get a background on it.
Yeah, it allows us to provide support to them. At the same time, they provide support back to us. And it basically it says it's Brantford at this point, but we do as a part of the bigger Ontario Provincial Mutual Aid Plan, we also have access to services from Haldeman and Norfolk and Hamilton.
Any other questions, Hazel?
Mike, I recall that mutual aid was always a part of your program years ago too, right?
Correct.
These are, it's not unfamiliar to you.
Leslie?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for being here. Last time you were here, I asked if we were, utilizing home insurances or car insurances to help pay for things. So when you were helping in the county of Brant, were you being compensated through them, through Brant County, or was it just not? being compensated? Or when you help them, are they gonna compensate you? And when they return to work here and assist us, will we have to compensate them? Just a question. Financial.
Great question, Councilor Green. There's no exchange of dollars in the mutual aid plan. There are other plans such as an automatic aid plans that can be negotiated in the future for specialized services that we may not have, and may require. So if we're sending an aerial truck into the city, for instance, we don't bill them, and if we need to use the same system, we don't get a bill from them either.
Dale? You're good? Alina? You're on
You guys
mute.
hear me?
You're
Can you hear
good.
me? Okay. Hi, Mike. I was just wondering what the instances are that Six Nations is providing support and the instances that we're receiving support.
Well, historically, we've been receiving support, more so from our neighboring municipalities. Over the last since I've been back, we haven't had any mutual aid responses at all. I know prior to my return, we've been asked to provide support into the city for significant fires and support, our neighboring municipalities for brush fires and stuff like that.
Follow up?
Yep, go ahead, Alina.
Are there any challenges to being a part of this mutual aid agreement?
Not as much as they used to be in the past. One of the things that used to be a challenge was that we didn't have the same training or the the apparatus and devices that they would have off reserve. We now, over the last 20 years or so, we've brought everything all up, and we are now at par, if not better, served within our community than most municipalities.
Thank you.
I have Greg, then Cynthia.
Yeah, hi, Mike. So this really doesn't affect your budget overall that much, and then the other is that by joining or doing this, does that allow us to access more funding?
There's no impact to our budget, and it doesn't
No.
give us access to anything.
Cynthia?
A question relating to fire trucks, the use thereof, I guess. A few months ago, I received a call from a community member and their son was attending one of the high schools in Brantford and was involved in a car accident. It wasn't the individual's fault. Another driver hit them from behind, and a fire truck was called. And it didn't seem that it was needed, but it was called. But what the concern was is they got this bill from the city of Brantford because the fire truck was called because they didn't have a Brantford address. How does that happen? Does this mutual aid have any impact on that?
The mutual aid program has no impact on that. That system is functional within the municipal bylaws of the city of Brantford. I believe the county of Brant also has that. And a number of other municipalities throughout the province do the same thing. And as I spoke to you last time I was in council, I'm going to be bringing at some point in the future a report recommending that we look at doing the same thing for non-band members.
Okay, anything else, Cynthia?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there's 3 therefores. Therefore, be resolved that Six Nations of Grand River Elected Council approve Six Nations Fire and Emergency Services participation in the provincial mutual aid plan, specifically with the county of Brant and city of Brantford. Therefore, be it resolved that the Six Nations Elected Council approve Six Nations Fire and Emergency Services to participate as a mutual aid coordinator as outlined in the plan. And therefore, be it resolved that Six Nations Elected Council delegates the acting fire chief to finalize and sign the agreement on behalf of Six Nations elected council. Is there a mover? Question? Okay, I moved by Leslie, second by Melba. Question, Leslie?
Yes, I love this idea about that mutual aid. I just, what I'm concerned about also, although there's no funding purposes or no opportunities, I'm wondering if that's going to be used as counting numbers of assisting us through Brant County this time. Because we wouldn't be putting them on our list, but they might be utilizing ours. It's a question. It's just, what do you think?
So I'll be honest with you, the mutual aid system's already been in place for, so I've been in the fire service for 33 years, long before I got here. This is just a formality of the documentation that's binding us into the system and giving us the authority to actually become the mutual aid coordinator as a part of that system. So functioning as assisting and deploying resources throughout all three communities in the event of something significant happening. So to answer the question, it's really everything we've been doing is already been there and already structured. It's just we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's today.
Thank you for that.
Melba?
Yeah, Mike, just a little update. Is the fire department continuing to train other First Nations? That's the first question. And the second question, do you still have a committee in place that you're aware of, Friends of Firefighters? And if you do you know how they use their funding to assist the community? Thanks.
So I have nothing to report on Friends of the Firefighters. That was something, I guess, the first time I was here that was struck, and I don't even know who was a part of that. So I have nothing to report on that. What was the other part of your question? Training other First Nations? Yeah, we're evaluating all of our training resources and ability to do that. We have a youth contingent that's actually coming in a couple of weeks so that they get an understanding of what the fire service entails, and they're coming from Wabagoon. So yeah, we're expanding all of that.
Okay, so it's moved by, Carrie?
Yeah, Mike, are you still acting or are you full-time?
I'm full-time, but I'm still acting in this position. I'm not a permanent fire chief at this point.
Okay, moved by Leslie, second by Melba. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried.
Yeah, have a good night.
Thank you for coming in. Okay, number 7. The 2024 federal electoral district name change. Go ahead, Christopher.
Now, Chief, and good evening, Council. Some of you who were on the 58th Council may remember that about 2 years ago, we talked about the once a decade process that takes place federally to redistribute riding boundaries across Canada. This happens every 10 years, and there's a drawn out process that takes place over a couple of years. And this process basically takes into account shifts in population changes over the country to try to maintain a relative equilibrium amongst the different ridings in terms of how many people live in each riding. For a long time, the Brantford-Brant riding, in which Six Nations of the Grand River is located, has had more voters than the average riding, which in turn means underrepresentation for the people of Brantford-Brant and Six Nations. About 2 years ago, we did a briefing note on that general redistribution process. We sent that out to council tonight just as some background information. Some of the details are now out of date in that because that process has now come to a conclusion. And as of this past April, the new riding boundaries are in effect. So whenever the next federal election happens, It will happen under these new boundaries. Now, in the map that you can see in the Dropbox, the map shows the new boundaries for this riding. It also mentions the new names for the new riding boundaries. And this current riding is proposed to be changed from Brantford Brant to Brantford Brant South Six Nations. The change in the boundary, as you can see on this map that Linda prepared, has the riding losing a bit of territory on the north side of Brantford, which is part of the county of Brant, and gaining some territory on the west side. As a result, part of Brant County is now being added to the riding of Flamborough-Glanbrook. That riding is going to be renamed Flamborough-Glanbrook-Brant North, and this riding is going to be renamed Brantford-Brant South Six Nations. Now, the MP for Brantford-Brant, now the MP for Brantford-Brant South Six Nations, Larry Brock, is asking for Six Nations Council to decide if council approves of this new name or objects to this new name, and to provide that feedback to him, because he is a key figure in terms of providing that feedback to the official process. So you'll see that you have a motion before you to approve or oppose the name change. And that is a general look at this. So this new name change would be in effect for the coming 10 years, starting 2 months ago.
Thank you, Christopher. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. Essentially, does that mean that they're changing the riding due to population, maybe due to the increase in development in north of Brantford?
The short answer is yes. It wouldn't be just related to development in Brantford North. It's related to development all over. So what they're trying to do is to create a balancing effect. And of course, it includes population growth in Six Nations, population growth in Brantford, and population growth, including development in Brant North. So because of that, they had to make some decisions about where to move the boundary. And as you'll see in the note from 2 years ago, part of the consideration was, does Six Nations get removed from that riding and put into a different riding, or does Six Nations remain in Brantford Brant? So they went through a number of different options to try to accommodate the growth in population all over this region. And you'll see an increase in the number of ridings in Ontario as a result. And so each riding in general will probably get a little bit smaller territorially, but feature an increase in population with the development additions that would imply.
And also too, council, if you do disagree that he still is the MP, that will still help with situations, concerns. I know other First Nations have declined their name added to the riding. So this council needs to decide if they would like to keep Six Nations on there or opposed. Go ahead, Cynthia.
What's the rationale? Why would we want our Six Nations to be included in a provincial, federal riding electoral? That's what it is, a basis for the electoral, whether one gets to vote or not. Is that what those ridings are essentially?
The question of whether or not somebody gets to vote is quite separate from the name. As everybody knows, Six Nations has been part of the Brantford Brant riding for quite a long time. That won't change now that the new boundaries have been finalized. So Six Nations is going to be part of this riding no matter what the name is. The only question is, does the name refer to the fact that Six Nations is part of that riding? Normally, when they create names for the different ridings, they try to have the name of the riding reflect the major areas in that riding. And for a while now, the main areas in the riding have been Brantford, Brant, and Six Nations, but Six Nations was never mentioned. So it's just a question of whether or not that is something that council would like or not.
Hazel?
I'm thinking that if the name Ashwegan Six Nations is added, I'm almost afraid how people would assume, oh, you're starting the municipality move. You're becoming that. And I think for our own sake, why can't we just continue on the way we are silently? If you want to go vote in a provincial election, you can do that. That's my thoughts.
So you're saying don't take Six Nations off of it?
Take it off.
Take it off, okay? Go ahead, Melba.
Yeah, I questioned, also, I guess, how would that affect our land claims, for example? You know, if we can still vote, why would we want our names connected to Brantford in this respect? I don't understand that, but there may be repercussions in the future concerning land claims. You also mentioned Flamborough. Say that again.
For sure, Counselor. Flamborough, Glanbrook, and Brant, and the north part of Brant County are being merged into one riding. So they're going to be the neighboring riding to the north and the east and the northeast.
Leslie?
I know when I was speaking to the gentlemen that were here from the Norfolk area, they said Tilsonburg stands alone. I thought that was very interesting, that it wasn't really in anyone's writing. So then I'm thinking we're close to Caledonia and the Haldeman, the other way, like the Niagara Escarpment. Would that be the next writing next to us?
On the south side, the riding is Haldeman, Norfolk. So that would include, that does include Caledonia. It includes Hagersville. Just to the west of there and just to the west of Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations is the riding of Oxford. Now, the riding of Oxford, the name is super simple and super short. It does include Tilsonburg. Tilsonburg is on the, as you can see on the bottom lower left of the map, Tilsonburg is just inside the boundary of the Oxford riding, but the name is not included.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What would count? Go ahead, Amos.
I'm thinking way down the road. I think as our population grows, I think we probably would qualify to be a riding at Six Nations of Grand River. Can you imagine? Six Nations of Grand River, we'd have a riding, we'd have our own MP from here. I mean, just thinking out loud, and an MPP from Six Nations Grand River. I mean, could it end up there? Could it end up there? Probably, with the population we have.
It
But we have
definitely
to start
could.
pushing now for 10 years from now, right?
As you'll see in the last briefing note, we did explore some of the different riding sizes historically. And originally in 1867, ridings on average were smaller than the current population of Six Nations. And today, the combined population of Six Nations members is not that far off the smallest riding in the country. So you're right, with a little bit of time and a little more population growth, that would be entirely realistic. And there are other potential possibilities discussed in that note as well.
And the way, sorry.
Yep, follow up.
Just to follow, yeah, the way the election's going this year, we could be the ruler, the kingpin, if we had that writing. In a minority government, you can. That's something to think about in the next 10 years.
Sir,
Helen, oh, go ahead.
sorry, Chief. Just one other note on that. If you look at the riding of Nunavut, I believe, I think all of their MPs have been Inuit since 1972, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason is because that riding is majority Inuit. So right now, Brantford, Brant South Six Nations is minority Six Nations. But yes, with time, Six Nations could be a majority in a riding of its own.
Helen?
Yeah, we've always been part of it ever since I can remember. I remember the provincial elections, they used to be held at that old little post office that Nona Johnson ran. Because I remember, I know Six Nations has a large voting population. I think the last election, it was over 300 voters from Six Nations. They got our own people run the voting. The last federal one we had, that's when everybody got kicked off the reserve. Had to go someplace else and they got kicked out of the gathering place. But yeah, we've always been part of it. I don't know why we would all of a sudden now just take our name off and say we're not going to be part of these writings anymore. We always were, and people used to vote for them. I remember when, like I said, the last one I remember, Derek Blackburn, and that was way like in the 60s. So it's always been here. So we've always not here, but I mean, we've always been part of something, whether it's a writing or what it is. I don't know why all of a sudden we would want to take our name off. We do have a lot of people that vote in the provincial and federal election.
Okay, so what would this council like to do? Would you like to keep Six Nations on there, or would you like to keep it just Brantford, Brant South? Because again, if our name's not on there, it still does the same thing. Go ahead, Amos.
I would just suggest if we are going to go that way, we say Six Nations of Grand River, not just Six Nations. If the majority or if that goes forward tonight, that's the only thing I would suggest, an amendment to the name. Or
Gary?
Yeah, if we are gonna add Six Nations, I'd say put it in front of Brantford's name. But I don't think we should, for the people that want to vote, they've been voting all along anyway. Our name hasn't been on it, so I'd say just leave it like that.
Let's just without it, right? Yep. Cynthia?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, because I understood that regardless of the name is on or not on, those who wish to participate in the voting could. What's being put to council is, do we want the actual name added? And I don't think that we should.
Hey, Melba?
Yeah, I don't think we should either. Just leave it the way it is. As we know, you have accusations in the community for quite a few years now. They're gonna be a municipality. They wanna be a municipality, Six Nations elected council. And we don't need that. We've discussed a few situations just recently. We wanna keep our relationships hopefully open and more open in the future with HCCC and other First Six Nations people. So we don't need those kind of things floating around or being put in place. Thank you.
Did you want to put a motion on the floor, Melba? So moved by Melba that therefore it be resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River elected council opposes the name change. So MP Larry Brock can action the decision accordingly. So Six Nations will not be on the name. So moved by Melba, second by Greg. Is there any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Dale.
Just a comment, Chris, in regards to I'm just looking at your two maps here. One with the black outline and one's a purple outline. Knowing the fact that they're gonna change whatever, regardless whether our name appears there or not, it's gonna change. I guess my question is in regards to when it comes to homeowner's address, because right now we're saying we're in Brant County. How will that impact individuals' address in relation to where they reside?
I don't believe there would be any automatic change.
Any other questions?
I call question.
Question? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Unopposed? Carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Melba, second by Greg. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Seen and carried. Thank you, Christopher. Number 8 is my update. So, let's start with meeting with MPP Bobby and Brady on May 22nd, an introductory meeting. MPP for Haldeman Norfolk and MPP Brady expressed support for Six Nations and wanting to do what she can to support us. I delivered a letter to the Clearwater Métis community in Brantford on May 24th. I hand delivered it to them. Sanctioned letter to the M&O Community Council office located in Brantford, informing them they are located on the Holloman tract. Question period. So, Memaqua. I accept an invitation for MPP Sal Memaqua to join him on the 28th, where he spoke Anishinaabe for a full order of business in the Legislative Assembly. This was historic and long overdue moment to witness. Meeting with the VI Rail on May 31st, May 30th, I met with Andy Rickard, Senior Advisor in Government and Indigenous Relations for Via Rail Canada. It was an introductory meeting as Andy was looking to meet with various First Nations communities across Canada to improve Indigenous relations with Via Rail, to gather a wholesome understanding of ways the Via can improve relations and present this back to the organization. I recommended that the Via Rail explore the possibility of offering free ride tickets for First Nations members to return home. For example, if tickets community members from anywhere in Canada to come back to their home community and to connect with services. I recommended that Via Rail explore adding Six Nations historic information, if it's historical plaques or Haudenosaunee artwork to display in the Brantford train station. And this possibility of sponsorship for Six Nations events also. Community awareness, the Chief and Council barbecue. We hosted the annual barbecue on May 31st as part of the community awareness. It was a great day, and with all the people and seeing everyone smile and enjoying the food. And again, congratulations to all the prize winners. Elevating new leaders, planting with JC Hill students. On May 31st, I joined students from JC Hill to plant vegetables in the planters surrounding Central Administration Building and along Chiefswood Road. These plants will continue to beautification of the community and provide a source of food and nutrition within the community at no cost to the community members. Thank you to the students and all their hard work. The plants are growing very well, and we'll let the community know when they're ready to enjoy. On June 4th, I gave welcome remarks and walked in the Tom Longboat Run. It was great to see all ages, from young to old, walking, running, and biking. Six Nations Police Ceremony. I attended the Six Nations Police Ceremony on June 6th in support of our brave Six Nations police officers. Six Nations Polytechnic convocation was June 13th. I attended, and a heartfelt congratulations to all the new graduates. Meeting with the YMCA on June 14th with Councillor Dean Hill. He is the lead for community committee. We met with YMCA Hamilton, Brantford, Burlington, president and the CEO and the vice president. The YMCA provided a copy of their Y Saves Life booklet for their 2024 to 28 strategic plan. I heavily advocated for the community members to receive free membership at the YMCA. The YMCA responded they would investigate this further. I expressed the importance of meaningful partnership with the YMCA operating within the community via the school programs and outside of the community at their centers. And discussions will continue regarding that. Ontario Legislator Internship Program, visit Six Nations. We met on June 20th. It was a meet and greet to learn more about Six Nations of the Grand River. The LIP program is a non-partisan organization that provides youth with practical experience working with Ontario legislator. These interns will likely move on to be working with various representatives of Ontario government, including ministers and MPPs. It was great to see the interns learning about the governance of Six Nations of the Grand River. And it was really nice for the questions that they did have, and they requested to come to Six Nations. And it was the end of their practical, I guess. They wish they would have had it at the beginning. So they would have had the information while they were in their practical work. Chef's appearance before House of Commons Committee on Excise Tax Study was postponed. That was supposed to be scheduled for the 19th. It was postponed a few days beforehand by the committee. The committee has put off continuing studying on taxation until the fall session, so as take up a separate study on the matter of water provision on reserve. Meeting with the AFN National Chief. Since the committee appearance was canceled, I was busy as I made sure to make the best use of my time in Ottawa. I had an introductory meeting with the National Chief, Cindy Woodhouse, on June 19th. The National Chief offered to assist in political advocacy and advancing the needs of Six Nations community. Prime Minister Awards for Teaching Excellence. I attended on the 30th anniversary of the Prime Minister Awards. This was June 18th. It was nice to hear the personal impact that so many teachers and early child educators throughout Canada are having on their students. It was an honor to be present when our community member, Nathan Rowbottom, was recognized for teaching excellence in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM. Nathan continues to be instrumental, inspiring learners that attend the Six Nations Polytechnic STEAM Academy in Brantford. Congratulations again, Nathan. Duda's Wellness Journey, that was on June 14th. I attended the Department of Wellbeing event titled Duda's Wellbeing Journey, hosted by the Wellbeing Department. It was a great turnout, and it was nice to see everyone there. I had a meeting with the Member of Parliament, Jamie Schmale, on the 19th. It was an introductory meeting with the MP. Jamie is also the Shadow Minister of the Ministry of Crown Indigenous Relations. MP Schmale expressed interest in continuing to learn more about Six Nations issues. I had a meeting with MP Larry Brock while in Ottawa also on June 19th. I met with MP of Brantford and Brant, Larry Brock, at his office. This meeting provided an opportunity to express the urgent political needs of the community. Question period on June 19th. I joined question period in the House of Commons, where the government and opposition exchanged questions and answers on how the country is being run and what issues are pressing the political agenda. I was able to listen to the live questions and answers between Prime Minister Trudeau and Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre. And also Chiefs of Ontario 2023 to 2024 annual report has been released. A copy can be downloaded online from the Chiefs of Ontario website. So that's my update. Is there a mover to accept his information? Yep, go ahead, Melba.
I'm just wondering, how many counselors were in Brantford today with the secretariat meeting?
How many counselors? I was there,
Yeah.
Chief. So Greg was there, Leslie was there, and Dean was there.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is, I was very impressed with your opening remarks. And, as you know, I'm very interested in, learning more about each other and understanding how we, I guess, see one another, how we make decisions, how we make comments, and other areas, I guess, that are related to our well-being as well as the community's well-being. And I think that's very important. And I know it would only take a few minutes, and I wondered if you could actually tell us what you said? Your remarks, do you have it in front of you? No. Yeah, I think it was very important because I never heard you say that, and like you've been in council, you always say 10 years, you have been. But I didn't know some of that of what you said. And it was so overwhelming that I just seen one person that broke down and cried. Yeah, she could really relate to what you were saying. So I thought that was really important. I'm not sure if Dean or Greg has anything to say, but I thought it was very impressive. Thank you.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I did too. I did, commend the chief afterward upon that. Yeah, and, it's always nice when you can add a very personal touch, to your remarks. And I thought that was, I thought it gave a solid message. It followed the theme of the residential school, the secretariat. And again, it hit on a couple of, very, very good points. So I do agree with you, Melba. I thought it was, a good opening for us.
Dean?
Yes, it was really good and I enjoyed it. You know, it just goes to show though, when all the people gather for this fiber secretariat, I know some of them were saying they were from Thunder Bay and whatnot, that that still affects all of us, no matter where we are, right? And when you did, like Greg said, add that personal touch in there, a lot of people did relate in there, no matter where they're from. So, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So can I have a mover to accept my chief's update? Moved by Amos, second by Leslie. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Number 8, Nathan did his update on the streaming services. Number 10, go ahead, Dale, on the Built Environment and Climate Adaptation Committee update.
Okay, in regards to the update, I know we had a meeting yesterday and then we had some in-camera issues, so council had authorized the release of this information, and we had 3 motions that were discussed and approved by council from the Built Environment and Climate Adaptation Committee. And the first resolution deals with some capital dollars where I think it was in 2023, 24 minor cap allocation, and one of the departments was willing to reallocate some of their funds that they were authorized for. And it was reallocated to some kind of a crisis and a health and safety issue in regards to the records building. I know where the records building is. It's in the old water treatment plant. It's a rather old building and they needed some immediate care. So one of the departments was willing to reallocate some of their funding that they had received, and just in due process, council just needed to authorize that. So that was done yesterday to reallocate to have these expenditures for the health and safety of the records building. The second issue was in regards to, it's a program that is done on an annual basis, and this program deals with public works as they look after the roads and services on Six Nations. And each year they're eligible to apply for some funding that is allocated to Six Nations. And it's usually depending on the amount of expenditures that Public Works goes through. In this particular year, they had approximately $3.47 million of expenditures, which usually entitled them to funding that they would apply for at the Ministry of Transportation. And the amount of funding that they were receiving from the Ministry of Transportation was $551,400. I know historically, if Six Nations would apply for that, and usually they had to spend double the amount that they were allocated to. So had they spent at least probably 1.5 or 1.2 million, they would have been eligible for that. But again, this is an annual process whereby the elected council has to authorize that and sign documentation for the funding to flow back to Six Nations and offset some of the costs that Public Works has endured throughout the year. The third allocation, or the third motion that was done, was it was a change order to a project for a company, a joint venture with Six Nations, A6N, where they had done some remediation work in relation to the East End pumping station, and the East End pumping station is located just below the hill there by Berry Hills property. So there was a change order for work that needed to be done because they wanted to improve the efficiency of that flow as the wastewater would flow to the lagoon system that sits behind Public Works. So there was a change order in approximately $70,000 that was reallocated. And again, just with a due process and authorization limits, council had to authorize that change to A6N to complete that work. And the funds were identified as Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, the Green Stream Funds, and some funds that come from Public Works Operation and Maintenance. So that was the three motions that were done yesterday in camera, and council authorized the release of those so that the community is aware of that. One other thing I just want to update, and I know I haven't provided my written report, I'm waiting for the final report. I attended a conference in Ottawa in regards to climate adaptation, and it was for a leadership conference. And I know they have very lofty goals, and I think we talked a little bit about this in the past in regards to the amount of issues that have been changed, that has occurred throughout, not only in North America, but globally in regards to climate change. So one of the things that they're discussing with the First Nations leaders across Canada is to look at what can be done to improve the system. And I know I guess historically, the economic dollar has been the driving force, and then with that became some spin-offs and issues that have happened, which has, I guess, resulted in some of the climate change. So the federal government is pursuing First Nations, I guess, contact and input in regards to what can be done and how it can be done. I know it's not going to happen overnight, and I know they're having further meetings coming up. I think they're going to be discussing some of that at the AFN next month. And as well, they'll be having follow-up meetings with First Nations leaders to create a more concrete plan, long-term plan with First Nations input, and actually looking at what can be done to funding that to whereby the First Nations people across Canada, because a lot of them are facing issues. I know for a lot of the Northern First Nation groups, it impacts their harvesting, their food. So if there's contamination with the animals feed, and it could contaminate the food. So there's a lot of issues they want to work at. And as soon as I get the final report coming out, I'll draft up and summarize it and input or provide it to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Go ahead, Hazel, question?
Yeah, in relation to the built environment, Dale, and the discussions that you have there. I don't know if this is a committee that would, I don't know if any of us have ever thought about that we need to plan our action plan because of this global warming and now with the big weather changes that are happening, almost like to the point of being scary, like today, the windstorm that knocked down a lot of trees and see, we don't know the impact that any one of these storms is going to have, because you can be out in a sunny day and turn around, there's a great big cloud hovering over you. I guess I can't say that any of us are prepared for whatever may be, but still in all, how can we prepare? Global warming is creating a lot of havoc, and I know it scares the kids too. The little people get scared. So just a question. Thanks.
I think some of that's a good question, because I know it was even raised at the conference, because even though they're coming to First Nations, these situations are not just happening on First Nations territory. It's happening all around us. So that was one of the big issues that was raised by a number of the speakers, was to ensure, because it was just mostly federal representatives, federal senior staff, and some ministers that were there. And one of the issues that was shared, that they need to have municipalities here. We need to have provincial representation at these meetings, because it's not just all of a sudden on Six Nations or other First Nations. It's happening all around everybody. So you're right. Nobody can control that. But I mean, we do have Rod working here, Rod Whitlow, and Stephanie, sorry if her name escaped, Stephanie Burnham, and they are working on plan and they have identified some specific issues in relation to Six Nations, and a lot of it has to do with water issues.
Follow up?
Okay, thanks for that, Dale. Another question on, as it pertains to environment. Those trucks that are in and out down on Forest Line. Today there was about 5 of them lined up there and they're going constantly. Has that been approved for that to happen? Or is that coming from a location in Caledonia? Like, I think if we knew what was going on, I think people could rest easier instead of just thinking every truckload you see carrying soil is contaminated. We need to put that to rest, but how can you when you don't know the details?
Yeah, some of those have been discussed at the Built Environment Committee and as well as Justice, and I know some things are happening, and then maybe Nathan can add a little more, but to my knowledge, I don't think they're authorized, and I know there's a policy that's being looked at, and it's being redrafted now to look at some of the word changes to be, I guess, a little more streamlined and make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed in regards to public safety. And I know there's I know there's a couple of them happening on the territory right now. I know the police have involved, and I know we're looking at some issues on how we can deal with that. And I know Nathan is involved in that component on the administrative side to see what needs to be done to ensure everything is compliant with all the regulations. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Nathan?
Yeah, just in terms of the process that we're currently involved in, what happens is it is a voluntary compliance process. So those that are bringing in the soil provide the background and the paperwork to that, to which we do the assessment to find out what is in that soil. So I understand that is going on currently. In addition to that, the chief's office has been working with the province because there's a lack of regulation on the provincial side that um, uh, affords us the ability to inspect and kind of stop these dump trucks before they enter the territory. So that's still a work in progress in terms of how we're working with the ministry to do what we're calling blitzes. So Six Nations Police works with the authorities on the provincial side to do a blitz of these trucks as they're coming in, because we know they're coming in from sources that have been deemed contaminated on Ontario side, and Ontario needs to do their part as well. So there's still a lot of work that we're doing to kind of fill these gaps and work with our partners on the Ontario side to do their part as well.
Follow up?
Yeah, I think the efforts that have been made to try and stop all of that, it doesn't seem like it ever materializes to the point where there's control over them bringing in the contaminated soil. And I heard a comment made about why not put this might be dangerous, cement blocks at the entrances to the reserve and stop the trucks from entering. And when they do have a legit reason and it's not, they're just coming in to dump, they're actually legitimate and bringing soil to a place that's, you know, legitimate, so.
Okay. Leslie?
My first question would be to the community and to ask is how can we assist those few community members that don't understand about contaminated soil, what it means to our waterways, what it means to your neighbor, what it means to your well. We're primarily have drilled wells here. Some are on that water system, but not everybody, it's not everywhere on Six Nations yet. So how can we need to put that out to the community. How can we help you in assisting to stop this contamination of soil being brought here? That can lead to larger diseases in our bodies, in our lungs, our eyesight. And if we're gonna look down the road for our generations, they need to know that the word I think is, we want to educate people on how it can be done, but they also need to know that that is wrong. I don't care how much you're being paid to bring in those dump trucks. The reality is that our people want to be healthy here at Six Nations. And I see the heads are nodding, and that's a true thing. So community needs to uphold their part as well here in this situation. Now, has anyone contacted the members that are bringing those truckloads of the dirt here or soil? They've been contacted. So we would assume with that knowledge piece that they would know to stop. But I think getting $58 or $100 a load of soil, they're willing to allow this to continue here at Six Nations and erode our own land systems. How then can we look at our airshed, our waterways, our protection of our life, our infrastructure, and trust that our community is going to hold that in place? We'll help to hold, but our community has a responsibility also to the community. And I know we're doing our best to try to find out who they are, not in terms of our community members, but who lit that up to say, oh, we could just go to Six Nations, we can go talk to so-and-so. They'll let us dump on their property. We can turn all of Six Nations into a dump. We're not a dump. We live here in this community. I live here and you live here, community, and we all live here. I don't want another second to hear about that. I know our community needs to know that that's not something that we stand for, and we're doing our best on it. So I just want to, I mean, from this point, we hear of drilling on other places. We hear of when they fracture our Mother Earth, they fracture her, they pollute her, they do whatever they want. And that's what's happening when these trucks are coming in here. They're polluting here. And if you say you don't know who it is, you know who it is. We all know who these people are. But what we're asking is for them to stop. Just straight up, just stop bringing that garbage here. We are not a dump. Six Nations is a beautiful community. Just go for a ride down any one of these roads and you'll see how beautiful it can be, and it is. I just want to leave it with that. Thank you.
Dale?
Yeah, one of the things we are looking at is that policy and making it a little more stern, I guess, in regards to guidelines. And one of the requirements is the third-party testing in regards to a source. And when it gets here, that the drivers have it. I know it was raised as well in Ottawa, but looking at reaching out to the province as well, and that the chief's office is speaking to look at changing their legislation to make it a little more forceful and penalizing for not only the source people, but for the truck drivers and trucking companies as well. So that, you know, if it is contamination documents or material that they're being delivered to any First Nations, to be a little more forceful. And that's one of the things we want to look at here is having some serious consequences in regards to fill that's coming here. Because I know, to be honest, I know some shortcuts are being made, and we want to make sure that those don't exist. So we want to change our policy to make it a little more forceful. And that's where we want to get on board with the province to make sure that they're a little more forceful on their side as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Hazel.
Yeah, this just makes you think about, how many times have we been through this situation of this dumping discussion for years? And even though efforts have been made, people have been asked, and when you ask the stop, it's almost like, no one wants to hear that. Like I'm serious about today, driving down the road from where I live there, about half a mile down. And there's like 5 trucks coming out of that place where they're dumping. As you travel towards Highway 6, you got about 6 trucks coming. all the way up Highway 6, you see that, repeated big trucks with soil, or else they're leaving to go back and get some more. And it makes me wonder if there's money in that. Actually, I think those people are setting themselves up to be made sick by all that stuff, because you don't know and you're closer to it because you're letting it be on your land. And I don't know, I'm just gonna say it, I don't like it. I don't like what's happening. Like Leslie said, we're not a dumping ground. Let's be proud of our reserve. Let's keep it neat and clean and respect it. That's all we need. Thanks.
Amos and Helen.
I don't want to detract from this conversation, but I would like to support Hazel's concern and raising the issue of the change environment. I don't think we would have seen what we seen last week 10 years ago with that heat. So something is changing, something is coming. And I'm just wondering where our emergency measures group is. I haven't seen an email lately from, because I'm at the radio station, from that group. What if a tornado did come here? Are we prepared? And in the last couple of months, that's getting into Michigan, it's not going to be, it's going to be a year probably that we'll start seeing them in Ontario. So I'm just wondering if we could resurrect that emergency measures group or team. Is it still exist, Nathan? And maybe we should be concerned, and like to support Hazel on that concern. Thank you, Hazel.
Yeah, it's the IMS team is still in existence. In fact, since the training, we've initiated operations three times, for three different occasions. One was the eclipse, in terms of those aspects. The other was the flooding that occurred a few weeks ago and backed up the sewer system. And the third was the transfer of contaminated items from Ganyos to White Pines. I did report last time that staff now have IMS training. I think we are at 550 staff have at least 100 level, 30 at 200 level, and 20 at 300 level. So they are now looking at updating the emergency management plan. And with that, what we're looking to do in the next few months is start initiating practice scenarios, so that we are prepared should a catastrophe happen, should a train derail, those types of aspects of things. So once we do the plan, that plan will come back to council. In addition to that, we will be kind of conducting these scenario drills to ensure that our staff are have that experience going forward. So it is very much in place.
Helen?
Yeah, I like Leslie's words. I think she's saying good words. We've had issues with dumping for God, I don't know, 15 years, I think. I think we've tried to do a lot of things. And some people listen to us and some people don't. But one of the things I don't think we've ever tried to tackle is getting at the developer that's producing the soil. Most of the soil, if people are getting paid to take the soil, it's coming from development sites. That's where it comes from. Because when they do a housing development site, they have to scrape off so many, feet of the layer of soil before they can start doing whatever it is they do. And it's that top layers of soil that's contaminated from just, just everything in the air, the gasoline and everything that goes in the air when their cars are driving around. It's all that kind of stuff that contaminates the soil. So when they scrape all of that soil off of the property, because you can see it when you drive by developments, how they're scraping the dirt away and they're taking rid of everything. And when they got no place to, but once they do that, they have no place to take it, to get rid of it. So they hire these soil, they're called soil brokers. These soil brokers, they go out and find a trucking company. They get paid by the developer to get rid of that excess soil. The soil broker goes out and finds trucking companies to deliver the soil, but he also goes out and finds people to take the soil. And unfortunately, a lot of these soil brokers have keyed into Six Nations. People are willing to do that. I've done a lot of research on it. And, anyway, but we've targeted the trucking companies. We've targeted the soil brokers, because I remember a few years back, we had one of the soil brokers at council. But we've never tackled the developer that's producing the soil. So that's, to me, where we might want to start looking at. I don't know if we can do anything, but we may want to start looking at that, because they're basically the ones that's responsible, is the developers. I mean, and you can't blame them really too much either, because if you need housing, you need housing. So there's different things we can look at, but I know Ontario's law is really weak. I remember a few years back, Flamborough was having big issues with people dumping soil into farmers' fields. Farmers were taking it, probably because they needed money, I suppose. And their council is really, really stuck to, because they didn't know what to do about it either, because the Ontario's laws was pretty weak on soil dumping. So there's different, I don't know, we might want to, I would think maybe start looking at the developers somehow, and you're right, Leslie. People, when they know they're bringing it in here, they're not going to listen to us if we say don't do it. Some of them have. I remember that one on Third Line where they were bringing in $7,000 truckloads of soil. They listened to us. And it's not $58 a truckload. It's anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 a truckload. It's big money. So those are just what I'm thinking. Maybe Dale's committee can start looking at what can we do with a developer. They're ultimately responsible. If a developer knows the soil brokers bringing dirt to Six Nations, I see them as being ultimate they're responsible too. And it's unfortunate that some of our community members take the money and take the soil. I know a lot of people are hard pressed for money and nowadays and everything, but to do what they're doing to our community is not right. So I hope we can come up with some kind of a solution.
Go ahead, Dale.
Thank you, Helen. But yeah, that is one of the reasons why we want to reach out to the provincial parliament people to look at what can be done to look at changing the legislation and the laws so that it can be a little more penalizing, as well as having a little more stricter enforcement in regards to the testing, the sources, and the places where it can be taken to be cleaned up and used elsewhere if it can have. So, but I know there's sites that will take contaminated stuff and they'll clean it up. So we want to look at what we can do to help bring this all together and make the laws stronger, change the laws, make it more penalizing, and look at what other solutions can be. Because it's not just if they want to contaminate off the reserve, something's going to get on Six Nations in regards to, and in particular to water.
Leslie? Can you use your mic, thanks.
Yeah, thank everybody for their comments. I was sitting here thinking about that and everything we're all saying here, and I thought about our land transfers. Somewhere down the road, somebody's gonna want a land transfer. And what are they gonna do? Are they just gonna get more land and put more dumping on, or should that be restricted as well? I have no problem with enforcement of laws, but it's the prosecution side that needs to take place, and I know that's what we're looking at. Because we can enforce all we want. But it now needs to be carried on through to make sure that it gets completed and that it's understood. So, and I was looking at this, and I was thinking about top layers. Top layers. What if that last top layer was needles? What if that last top layers had hot rocks right on top of it? You know, like Browns and Bradford, where they were radioactive. There's nothing being developed there right now. And I really truly hope that's not what's being sent here. I'm not saying from there, I'm saying that it's not hot soil, radioactive soil. Because now they're parked right in front of it and it's going behind their properties. Or they're gonna try and build a garden on it and not tell their children what they put in front of them or what they're digesting now. What's being trying to go through the body. It's just calling for more and more havoc to the human condition. And so I was thinking about it. I don't know what slag is. Does anybody know what slag is when it comes from, like, say, steel companies? Carrie, can you tell me about that?
It's the byproduct from making steel. Like, when you're welding, the slag that comes off of it is basically almost the same thing as the slag that comes from the Fasco.
Is slag any good for production of anything, like in terms of growth or waterways, or like, is it good for us, for the environment?
I'm not too sure if they put it in asphalt or not, but people have put it on their laneways, and it's okay for laneways, but they say not to pave over or as a base material for a pour in your, for if you're pouring cement, it's not a good base material because it disintegrates and basically there's nothing underneath your floor after that.
My final comment to that is, if it's radioactive, you think of Chernobyl, you think of things around the world, and you can't go back. You can't live there. That contamination is like gonna outlive probably generations where nothing can be so I hope the sooner the better to find out what is there, and let's hope it's not radioactive. Contamination is contamination.
Okay, can I have a mover to accept Dale's update? Moved by Hazel, second by Leslie, all in favor? Be opposed, see none, carried. Number 11, scheduling. Invitation to attend a benefit concert supporting the Heather Winterstein Foundation. So again, it came from Fort Erie Native Friendship Center. Jelly Roll, a multi-award winning Nashville country artist, will be hosting the benefit concert and supporting that foundation. And supporting by the Fort Erie Native Center. The Heather Winterstein Foundation aims to support Indigenous prevention programs and healing services, advocate for Indigenous health services locally, provincially, and nationally, offer scholarships for Indigenous individuals pursuing post-secondary education in nursing and medicine. So again, this was just was given to just as a press release also on June 18th, and it's already June 25th, and I went on the website and it sold out. So but it said there might be more tickets or something. So if anybody is interested, we can try to see what we can do. Yeah. June 8th. July 8th. So are we at the AFN? You're at the AFN also.
Can I make a comment, Sharon?
Yep, go ahead.
You know what what I was thinking was, when I seen what they were doing, and I thought, how did they get him there? He's getting quite famous. So then I got thinking, well, if somebody was to go to this fundraiser, if they could try and get in contact with Jelly Roll's agents or whatever, whoever travels with them, to do a concert here for the Gavania School. To see if he would do a concert here for the Gavania School. I don't know if that's a good idea, but that's what I was thinking. Do you think it would work if we did that? I don't know.
Yeah, I was, when I read Jelly Roll, I was like, wow. I kind of said the
Yeah,
same.
he's quite popular.
Yes, he is.
But if he's willing to come to do to help the natives in St. Catharines and Fort Erie and wherever, because I think it's a native organization. This Heather Wine, is it Heather? I don't know, that foundation. I think it's a native foundation. If he's willing to come there to do a concert for them to raise money, and if we got to talk to his agents or his whoever, would he be willing to come to Six Nations to do a concert to raise money for Governor? I think, I'll bet you any money he would, if we could get in touch with him. So if anybody decides to go to this thing, that's what I would say. Try and get in, ask them how they got a hold of him and got connected to him. And then we can, if he's willing to come here, we'd have to find maybe an outdoor concert, because we don't have buildings big enough. But anyway, that was just my thinking. So I don't know. It's a thought.
Okay. Are you going, Helen?
No,
Are you-
I'm not going. I'm not a fan of Jelly Roll, but if it was pitball, I'd be there.
Okay, it says, we just looked it up also. It says how to book Jelly Roll. So how much does it cost to book Jelly Roll also? So we have that information too. So, again, it's a benefit concert. It's taking place July 8th at the Meridian Center in St. Catharines. So number 2 is the Grand River Council on Aging, the Grand Parade official launch to take place on Wednesday, July 31st at 2 p.m. at the Charlotte Villa in Brantford on Darlington Street. If anyone is interested to go. The 31st. July 31st.
I was thinking about going. If nobody else wants to go.
Okay.
So you can put me down if you want to put me down.
Great. Yes, I know my name's on the agenda and I'm just trying to switch things around. If I can't, I just want to make sure that I have a seconder. So I guess for myself, if I'm not able to, Helen to be able to go. Is there a mover? Moved by Amos, second by Leslie, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Seen and carried. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. That ends for general council. Have a great night, everyone. And you can have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Amos, second by Leslie, all in favor. Be opposed, seen and carried. Thank you.